This month's OC is about a lovely little guy named Bishop, and ever since talking about the other characters in this story, this is a video that a lot of you guys have been looking forward to, so let's get started. Hello and welcome back to my channel. Hope you're doing well. I'm really excited to be talking about Bishop, and I know a lot of you guys were excited to hear about him, so I'm not going to ramble on too much in the beginning, as I always do. I know you guys always hate that. But as always, I do want to say that this is not the first character I've talked about in this story, and there is some background information in other videos that you should know about this character before watching this one. So if you have not seen those videos, I will leave those linked in the iCard for you to check out. I talk about the story briefly and how the world works briefly, because it's not just like our world that we live in, I guess. So I would recommend going and watching those videos just to get that background information, specifically Aspen's, because that is where I go most in depth about the plot and the structure of the world. So let's get to it. Let's just jump right in. Just like the other characters in this universe, Bishop does not have a last name or a middle name. I really need to work on that. So he's just Bishop. That's all I have for him in terms of a name. His name is Bishop. He is a trans male. He is 18 years old and he is an ambivert. I guess you can say he leans a little more towards the introvert side, but I would still classify him as an ambivert. He can be pretty socially awkward. He's not super socially competent, I guess you could say. He's very, very book smart and he enjoys school quite a bit. It's not necessarily because of like being educated, although sometimes that is a part of it. It really depends on the subject, but he enjoys his time in school and he looks forward to it. He's a very closed off person to most people. He is really good friends with Milo. The two of them are very close, and they're really the only friends each other have. That didn't make sense, did it? Milo and Bishop are each other's only friend, really, so they're very, very close with each other and they're very open with each other, but in terms of other people, Bishop is a lot more closed off. And when other people look at them from the outside, they usually pay more attention to Milo because he is the one that's more like open and extravagant, and then Bishop is a lot more laid back and quiet and reserved. He's surprisingly short-tempered. Before the course of the story begins, he was a very angry person and he was very like lashing out at everybody, even over the smallest things. He was just always angry all of the time, and that's for his own reasons, which we'll get into in a little bit. But being around Milo definitely helps that. He still has a short temper, but he's a lot less angry and hateful towards people. The way he was before, you could just ask him how his day was going and he'd be like, fine, whatever. He was kind of emo, I guess. Emo without the aesthetic of emo. So that's who he was. But like I said, being with Milo really helped him like open up to him, and then just have a person around, and being around him, just the type of person that Milo is, it really helped soften Bishop up. Bishop. But also simultaneously it kind of fuels it, because like I was talking about in Milo's video, Milo's a little bit on the obnoxious side, so he'll do things a lot that makes Bishop kind of go off, but it's more of in like a friendly way now, kind of like how you would call your friend stupid. Like, you know those friendships, that's kind of what they have, so they get along very well, but they also have that like passive-aggressive banter without being like hurtful, if that makes any sense. That being said, though, he can be patient with certain things, like if he's trying to learn something new, or if he's doing something that he enjoys and he's coming across different obstacles. With those sorts of things, he's a very patient person. I guess it's just more with people that he loses his patience a lot faster. So, the story, right? This takes place in my quote-unquote zombie universe. Y'all already know why that's quote-unquote, but basically, in this world, there are these parasites that feed on the living, which turn the living into like a zombie-like state, and then those parasites just feed off of them, and then they bounce around to different living beings, and then that's how they survive. The government in this universe is currently trying to find a way to combat these parasites. Not a lot of information is in the public about it, and so the government's just really working behind the scenes to keep things under control and find a way to stop this. Aspen is someone who, before the course of the story, is already working with them, and then Milo and Bishop get dragged into it as the story goes. So as you already know, I always do a Q&A section at the end of this video, and when I was reading through comments on my Instagram post to find the questions to answer in this video, I got a question about the zombies, and I thought I would throw that in here because it's not really to do with Bishop, but it's something to do with the world, and I think that it's an important question to be answered, especially because I have been getting it a lot. I guess I haven't really explained it super well. But basically, The question was, do the zombies like eat the brains like we would think of a zombie, or are they more chill? Because Aspen, Milo, and Bishop, they still go to school, so are the buildings protected, or are the zombies not as big of a threat? So here's an answer to that question. It's not necessarily that they're eating the brains, although I guess you can think of like the parasites eating the brains of the living being it's like attached to. So basically, let's say I'm just sitting here being my old little self, and then the parasite latches onto me. It's the parasite itself that would be the zombie, technically. So it wouldn't really be me, it would bring me into a zombie-like state. That is due to the fact that the parasite is feeding on me and basically just, you can think of it as eating me from the inside out. And then eventually, if I am not treated, I will pass, and then the parasite will move on to another living being. And then that's how they function. And that's why I call it my quote-unquote zombie universe, because the things themselves aren't the zombies. It's the parasites that habit living beings and then turn them into a zombie-like state. But they aren't dead. They're not the undead. That is just the symptoms of the parasite infecting you, which can lead to death if nothing is done about it. And in terms of going to school, yes, they do go to school, but the zombies are still like a threat. So don't think of it as something that has been there for a while and is just continuing to go on and no one's really caring. It's more of just like, how do I explain this? So ever since the beginning of the story, like before the story begins, this outbreak has been happening, but it's something that happened suddenly, and it's something that they're still looking into. So they do still go to school and everything because, you know, school's important, stay in school, kids. But it is something where it's like, if they think someone is getting sick, they'll be like sent home or sent to a hospital. There are times where if it's getting really bad in certain areas, the school will shut down temporarily, but it's not something that like is preventing them from going to school. It's bad and it's getting worse, but it's not yet at the point where all schools everywhere are shutting down. Since there isn't a lot of information known in the public, there isn't a whole lot of decisions being made in terms of like, should we be shutting these places down? Are there certain measures that we can take to prevent this? Because to them, it's still fairly new. So yeah, I hope that I was able to answer that. I hope any of that made sense. If you still have questions about it, feel free to comment down below. But anyways, I need to stop clapping. Let's talk about how Bishop kind of fits in to all of this. So at first, when Bishop and Milo get dragged, I said Bishop and Milo, I usually say Milo and Bishop. That was weird. Anyway, when the two of them start getting dragged into it, Bishop was very against joining at first, which is very opposite to Milo, because in his video I was talking about how he was very gung-ho about joining, and he really wanted to do that just because of who Milo is as a person. And Bishop wants to help, but he's just not sure what he and Milo can do, because unlike Aspen, they aren't trained for this sort of stuff, and they don't have any experience with fighting or these parasites or anything involving the government, and so he's just not sure what they would be able to provide. So they do join eventually because of plot, which I'm not going to really talk about right now, but once they do join, he becomes more of like a team organizer. He learns a lot from Aspen, and he really looks to her for guidance. Even though he is kind of a peacekeeper between Aspen and Milo, so a lot of people would view him as kind of like the leader, he views her as the leader. Like, he just really wants to be able to take after her, and he always looks at her because he always wants to improve what he's doing. And since he is working for the government now and he is trying to help, he does want to learn as much as he can, just so he can maximize his assistance. So he's really the one who talks with Aspen and makes plans. He usually becomes the head of like organizing things, so if they're on a mission, he's like, okay, you do this, I'ma do this. He probably doesn't say it like that, but he really wants to get stronger, not necessarily physically, but more of just like emotionally and mentally. Like I said, he used to be a very angry person, and even though he's better with it now, he's still not at peace with himself. Like I was saying, he's kind of the mediator or peacekeeper between Aspen and Milo. Between Milo and Bishop, Aspen tolerates Bishop so much more, but she still isn't fond of him because she hates everybody and everything. But whenever those two are fighting, Bishop's usually the one to step in and try and calm it down. That being said though, he usually does get very frustrated with how often they fight, and really the three of them are kind of a mess. They don't have a lot of good teamwork, they don't get along. Well, I mean, Bishop and Milo get along, but the three of them as a unit don't really work well together, and they're always fighting, and it's a lot. everything's a mess. That's pretty much all I can say right now about story stuff and how the characters work and everything. So I'm going to be moving on to the Q&A section, and if you don't know what this is, if this is the first OC video you're seeing of mine, which it shouldn't be, go watch those other videos. Pretty much every single month I will post a picture to my Instagram of the monthly character for 24 hours, and then during those 24 hours you can comment anything you want, asking a question for or about that character, and then after 24 hours I take the post down, read through the comments, and I pick some to read here. I pick questions that are either interesting to me personally or questions that are asked repeatedly. So if you want to be a part of any future video like this, feel free to follow me on Instagram. The link will be down below, and I would highly recommend doing that anyway, but that is where I'm getting all of this from. Now, traditional questions. I just said I would stop clapping. The 3 questions I answer in every single OC video. What is his birthday? He doesn't have one. He doesn't have a birthday or a zodiac sign, so feel free to comment down below any specific dates, birth months, zodiac sign, and then in the future I will pick one and I will let you guys know what that is once I make a decision. Does he prefer ice cream cake or cookie cake? He prefers ice cream cake. And lastly, use a vine to describe him. Everything's fine. Moving on from those, I got a question about his name. I actually got a couple of questions about his name and why I named him that. People want to know. His name is Bishop, right? I'm sure you knew that by now. The name Bishop means guardian or overseer. Does that apply to his personality? Definitely yes. So it's more of the overseer side of things than the guardian side of things, but since he is like the mediator between Milo and Aspen, he kind of oversees them. So that's why he's named that. Within the universe, there isn't a specific reason why he chose the name Bishop. It's just more of like me as a writer. That's what I decided to do. Within the in-universe lore, I guess you could call it, he just chose the name because he likes it. What is his thoughts on Thor movies? What are his thoughts on horror movies? He loves horror movies, and he always drags Milo to watch them with him, and Milo hates horror movies. So that's always a fun thing that they argue about. When did he figure out his gender, and when did he start to transition? He always felt like he was a boy since he was a kid, but he didn't really process what those feelings were until he was about 10 years old. So it was more of just like by the time he was 10, he realized what he was feeling, and he looked back at his feelings and came to the conclusion that he was trans. In terms of transition, he's only socially transitioned. He hasn't medically transitioned at all at this point, and a big factor of that is that he isn't out to everyone, and he's not out to his family. He is out to Milo, and he is out to some people at school, pretty much like a lot of people at school really, but he's not out to his family yet. I also got a lot of questions asking about why he was bullied, and I guess this is a great place to address that. So the reason he was bullied is just for a number of reasons, and basically the summary of it all is that Bishop was an easy target. I got questions asking if his hair is naturally that light or if it was dyed, and it's naturally that light. He's albino. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that part of him, but he is albino, he's trans, and he's kind of nerdy, and so he's just quote-unquote different to a lot of people, and so growing up he was always just an easy target for bullies, so that's just why he was bullied. And Milo, being the person that he is, when he moved into Bishop's school and he saw him being bullied, he kind of like helped him out a little bit. Now, of course, Milo isn't really respected in the school. He's kind of like bullied too, I guess you could say. For him, it wasn't as bad as Bishop. It wasn't nearly as bad, but it's more of just people thought he was weird and didn't really like him all that much, and so he wasn't really taken seriously when he tried to step in, but when he did try and step in, and after he's repeatedly tried to help Bishop, it really kind of ended up striking a chord. I feel like that has negative connotations, but Bishop really appreciated it, and then over time they just grew really close, and then they became each other's only friends. Also, I talked about his hair. Speaking of his hair, does he wear his hair up all of the time, or does he also wear it down? He wears it up probably 80 to 90% of the time. He wears it down when he's around his family because he thinks that it makes him look more feminine, and he's not out to his family and he's not really ready to come out to them yet. But whenever he's at school or with Milo, which is most of the time, he wears his hair up. What is his learning style? Visual, kinetic, whatever, etc. He learns best with a combination of audio and visuals. He leans more towards audio, which is why he does well in school, I guess, because a lot of school is teachers talking to you, and he learns best that way, but he also learns fairly well with the visuals. What is his favorite kind of music, and does he play any instruments? If so, what instruments? He does not play any instruments, and he's very indifferent with music. He doesn't really listen to it on his free time, and Milo being a really big music lover, he always just ends up listening to whatever Milo's listening to, because the only time he ever really listens to music is when he's with Milo. So the only music he really knows is Milo's taste of music, and he's just completely indifferent to all music in general. Is he into gaming? If so, does he prefer modern games or retro games? He's a big gamer, and he loves retro games. Him and Milo both love retro games, and so they always play those together. If Aspen or Milo wanted to irritate him, what would they do? They would just say incorrect facts. Anything that is just incorrect would drive him crazy. So he's a very fact-based person, and he's a very, like, scientific person. And so if you just say anything that's factually wrong, he'll get so mad at you. Especially, like, not necessarily if it's because you don't know, it's more of just, like, if you do know, and you just say it over and over again, it really makes him angry. Like, if you tried to say that, like, the sky is green or something, and you just say that to him repeatedly, he gets mad. What is his favorite ramen flavor? He likes the shrimp flavor. In Truth or Dare, which would he pick? He would pick Truth repeatedly until he is provoked into picking Dare. So if you say something like, oh my god, you always pick Truth, you're such a wimp, or something like that, he would then pick Dare. But in general, he would pick Truth. How long does it take for him to open up to people? Way too long. The only reason he ended up opening to Milo is, like I said, Milo ended up just forcing himself into Bishop's life, and Bishop was like, okay, well, I guess this is happening. But he is a very closed-off person, like I said, so it's not very often that he opens up to people. And lastly, is he a morning person or a night owl? And how late does he stay up at night? He's definitely a night person, and he stays up way too late. He's usually working hard on, like, homework or his own, like, research for whatever thing he's looking into. You know how, like, sometimes in the middle of the night you'll get random, like, thoughts of, like, I wonder why this thing is, and then you look it up. It's like that. With him, it's more of just, like, how did the universe begin? And just stuff like that. And so he'll always stay up late looking into stuff like that. And yeah, there's my boy Bishop. Hope you liked him. I like him. Of course I do, because he's my character. If I said anything in this video that's unclear, or if you still have questions about Bishop or their world, feel free to leave a comment down below. If it is something kind of in the territory of spoilers for the story, I'm not gonna answer it, or if it's a question I feel I already answered in this video, or in past videos, I won't answer it either. So if I don't get to your comment and I don't reply to it, just assume it's one of those. But I do try to reply to any comment that I can, and I really appreciate your comments, even if I don't get to see them or reply to them. And give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and if you liked Bishop, I hope that you like him, and if you liked the art, I would really appreciate just what your thoughts and feelings. I've been talking for too long, my brain is going stupid. And also, if you are new here, I can't speak. If you are new here, feel free to subscribe. I post new videos every Wednesday and just other days that I can, but for sure every Wednesday. And I post videos like this every single month, where each month I'll talk about a different character of mine. Next month is actually the last 2 characters in this story, so that'll be fun. They're more minor characters, so they're just getting mushed into one video. So I hope you're looking forward to that. And you can also follow me on any social media that will be on screen now and linked in the description box below if you are interested. Like I said, following me on Instagram would be the best place, but if not, then it's no big deal. There'll also be some videos on screen now and linked in the iCard for you to check out if you want. I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye.